Hello, hello, everyone. It is Wednesday and it is time for another Cafecito. I am your host, Lizette Ibarra, and as usual, I'm very excited to have you all here. And I have an incredible guest today, and we're going to deep dive into a topic that's very close to my heart. We're going to talk about career and identity and what happens beyond the title. So without further ado, welcome. And Mariemi, welcome. How are you today? It's Wednesday.
Good afternoon. It's middle of the week, Lisette. Thank you so much for having me. I am so honored to be here with you and have this conversation. Thank you. Thank you, United Latinas and everybody who made this possible. Thank you for the invitation. I love talking to you every day. So if I could do it, I would do it. So I'm sure that everybody's going to enjoy having you here hosting this conversation. So thank you.
Thank you, Mariemi. And this is actually a conversation that I was very looking forward to. And let me start by sharing with the audience a little bit about yourself. I like to do it because I know you're humble and you're not going to share everything we need to know about you. But let me tell you that Mariemi is one of the most respected people leaders in Puerto Rican banking. She's been 30 years in financial services on both sides of the house. We're going to go deeper into this. She's been on the business side and on the people side in banking. She's led mergers and acquisitions, integrations across Puerto Rico, the US, the Virgin Islands, Colombia, and Costa Rica. She reads P&L as fluently as she reads culture, and she's been an SVP of people for 9,000 employee institution across 5 countries, running 900 million workforce strategy. So that's just a small intro, also for you to get a taste of the conversation we're going to have today. So again, Mariemi, welcome and thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for the invitation.
Okay, so without further ado, let's dig into it. Career and identity, Mariemi. And this is something that I've been thinking a lot lately. And I think that most of us, why this is an important conversation to have, I think most of us are attached to our titles more than we realize. Often we don't think about it. We think we're our titles and we don't see the crossing lines. And we don't notice this until the title is working for us. Sometimes the title works for us and then something changes. And that's where we start asking the questions. And I also believe that early in our careers, Mariemi, we often want to be defined by the title. I remember when I started my career and I was a manager for the first time, it was like, oh my God, I am a manager. I wanted to be so attached to the title, but later we want to be seen apart from it. So does that reflect your experience, Mariemi? And what needs to happen for that shift to truly take place?
Wow, that's a very important question, Lisette. And I think it's a question that maybe we don't stop to think about it soon enough in our careers. I think that if I stop for a second and think about when did I consider that something for me to think about, I would say that it was actually when I was asked to move to HR. I had been, having great opportunities, growing into the business. As you mentioned, I started in operations and finance and compliance and the consumer business. So I knew where I wanted to go. I was clear on my path. I loved what I was doing. And one day I was invited to go to HR. And I was like, oh my God, why am I doing this? Why am I being asked to go to HR? Again, titles were in my favor. They were going pretty well. So a shift over that path would have meant probably a change in title or something that was not necessarily going the right way. So I questioned myself. At the beginning, I was scared. I was concerned. I remember going. This happened after a meeting, a very important meeting. I remember going to a room and calling my husband, saying, "I don't know what's going on. They're asking me to go to HR." I was like, "That doesn't follow my path and my title and my growth." But I stopped for a moment, and I was forced to ask myself, is this truly about the title, or truly about the actual value that I can bring into the organization, and how I can use what I have learned in these other places to the place I was being invited to. And at the beginning, again, it was weird, but then soon after, I realized that my call was creating value through people, value to all those organizations I had been part of. And when I mean organization, departments, areas, disciplines that I had been part of, but they only happen because of people, and people be, in that equation. So I said, step back, forget about the title, forget about your planned path, look into the invitation, listen carefully, and maybe there's something there. And I
Right.
did.
Wow, that's an amazing story. And um, you did this career change without leaving the building.
Yeah.
I believe for a lot of us, when we want to try something different, maybe shift our career or pursue a different function like you did, that's amazing. Like you're a CPA actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
It amazes me. Yeah, like you were on the business side, and then you had this opportunity in HR, but without leaving the building. That's super important and remarkable, because I think it forced you to break the pattern of a structure that was comfortable to you, and an environment that was very familiar to you, and within the same building shift to a completely different function. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was that. And I am very thankful. I think many people ask me, why did you stay so long in the same organization?
Yeah.
I was an amazing organization. I was surrounded by extremely talented colleagues. And the fact that I was able to move 7 different times in that time frame,
Yeah.
to very different roles within the organization. None of them were, an easy path.
Mhm.
I think that was what actually kept me in the organization, and it gave me a lot of breadth of knowledge, and a different way of looking into how to add value in an organization.
Right. And I think when you make such a big transition, from the business side to HR, or it could have been the other way around,
Yeah.
it forces you to think which of your strengths are truly yours and which of the strengths are related to the title. So how was that experience for you? What questions were you asking yourself when you did this transition?
That's a very good point. And I think that at the beginning, when I went to HR, again, I was concerned, how am I going to add value there? What am I going to be contributing? How am I? And the first thing I did was I stepped back. I looked into everything. There was an amazing team that had been there for a while. So I listened, I learned. One thing that I did, actually, I start, because I love learning. And I said, in order to have meaningful conversations and smart conversations with this amazing talent, I need to learn more. So I started learning. I went to Cornell for 3 years back and forth, and took the HR certification on HR executive certification. I took the SPHR. I took the CCP. I took all the certifications and training. I was able to learn the discipline, to learn the technical HR matters. And then when I did that, I was like, oh, this connects very well with the other side. Like, now I understand how I can connect the strategy, the operational need, the utilization of at that moment $900 million of budget. Are we using this correctly? Are we investing in the right things are we maximizing that budget? So I would say that transition, what first did was made me very humble into understanding that I needed to learn and that it was okay, but that I also needed to understand what was that I was bringing to the table so that I could share that with the team and connect the two worlds and make out of it the best I could. And I also learned that beyond the title, there were so many things that I could bring to the table: my care for people, my interest in making people better, in sharing the knowledge. I always remember when I got to the securities business very early in my career, there was a very knowledgeable person there that he came from another brokerage house, and he told me, you know what, if you're willing to, I'm going to teach you everything that I know. And he did. I opened that brain, and he actually poured everything he knew into mine. And that was something that was so meaningful at very early age, and a very early in my career, that I never forget that moment. It was so rewarding to have somebody with so much knowledge, to have the interest and also the courage, Lizette, to help me learn as much as he knew. He and I say courage because sometimes we withhold information, or we don't share information because we are concerned about others knowing, and we don't remember that. And that's beyond the title, that you can give so much so that others can make it better with you. And it has nothing to do with the title. It has to do with your skills, with your upbringing, with your career knowledge, but also with your heart, with what you want to give in order to feel better in that journey that you're going to take with other people.
What a gift, Mariemi. And I feel like oftentimes when we take on a new challenge or a new opportunity, it's very tempting to start in that role, and we want to prove ourselves. And the first thing we do is we start making changes. It's like this need of saying, yeah, I have this new big title, and I need to prove that I can make change. And what you did was the opposite. You walked into the role, you listened, you learned, and you took the opportunity of someone that offered you to take you by his wing. And I think that's a great gift. And I think sometimes we don't even pay attention to who is around us, and the opportunity to have that guidance. It's unbelievable. So congratulations, because it might sound easy, but being humble when you take on a new role or a new challenge might be the most difficult thing to do. Not because we don't want to be humble, but we want to prove ourselves.
Yeah. So, and it's scary because you have been given, an opportunity, and you don't know how much time that opportunity is going to last, if expectations that people had over you, giving you that responsibility, if they are happening or not. So it's scary too, and it's okay to be scared.
It is okay to be scared sometimes, right? And I want to talk about something else, Mariemi, because you had, this incredible shift in your career, in your title, but you also had a long tenure with your company. Mm-hmm. And that's another part of identity of people that have long tenures with their organizations. How do you separate yourself, your identity, from not only from your title, but from the company that has been your house for so many years? So I'm pretty sure we have people in the audience that have been with their companies 10, 12, 15 years. What will you tell them to start doing today, long before they even think about, they question their identity related to their organization, right?
That's a very, very important question, Lizette, because I don't think we take time to think about that. Because you're in the bubble, right? You're in there. Your heart is all in. You care about your people, your organization. You want to make it better. You're not thinking about tomorrow or the day after. You're not thinking about and you actually need to do that. I'm just in that moment of transition, and I am starting to value, how much of that actually gives you back, and what things you missed. And I'm learning a lot about it. And I think that one of the most important things is building a portable identity. Don't just put a brand forever and tattoo that brand for yourself. You have to be more than any organization you're in. And that doesn't mean that you're not loyal. That doesn't mean that you don't care about the organization you're in that moment, but you just can be only that. During my transition, I have received comments like, "Oh my God, I cannot think about your organization without you," or "I don't know what to think about you without the organization." And people say that in a very positive way, I think, and that it's great, and I appreciate it. But I think that it has also opened my eyes into, okay, that's important. You need to be more than an organization. You need to diversify your experiences. That I think I did intentionally. Also by chance and opportunity, because I was given the opportunities, but knowing more than just one thing that makes you, a utility player, that you can play different areas, different roles, and that you can show how those different roles add up to what you really want to do after. I think that's very important. I think it has to be connected to your purpose. You need to identify that purpose, and you need to stay connected to it. You cannot change it just because the organization changed it.
Right.
It has to be yours. You have to own it. You have to create it. You have to work with it. And I think that another very, very important thing, or two more, I would say. One is that networking. I have, throughout the years, I didn't even notice how, because I care about relationships, but I didn't even make the networking efforts intentionally. I did them because I like people, I like relationships.
Right.
I love doing that. So over years, I have developed and nurtured relationships that I cherish very, very, very much outside of the organization. People like you, who I have met, through network and through other people introducing me to great people, great professionals. But now I realize that network has been by my side every single day, every single day. And that's important. So you have to nurture that network that you carry. And I think that longevity, being in the same place, your tenure, it's not bad as long as it's working for both sides.
Yeah.
So you have to question yourself, and it's not being selfish. It's just ensuring your path, your future, what's good for both sides. And you also need to understand what that is not happening.
Of course. And it's always being aware that we are in command of our professional career, right? And as you very well say, it's not that you're not being loyal, is that we always need to ensure we're taking control. If you are in a position to say with, in a long tenure with an organization, that's fantastic. As long as you are constantly asking yourself these questions, is this why the way that I really want to build my career? Or is this where the comfort zone is taking me? And I think what you bring to the table in terms of networking is truly remarkable, because I've seen people with long tenures build incredible relationships inside of the organization. And the longer you stay, the more exposure you have to the organization globally, right? So you feel like you're going places, you're traveling a lot, you're meeting incredible leaders from other regions of the world, other functions of the organization internally. But sometimes that bubble you might not realize, but it becomes your entire world. And that's where the risk relies. And I think since you did great by establishing your network, but I've seen a lot of people that once they're outside of the bubble, they're like, oh my gosh, what's happening outside of the world. So networking is crucial, right? When you networking outside of the organization, when you're building these long tenure careers. So
Absolutely.
we have like 7 more minutes to go, and I want to really go towards a conversation to you, Mariemi. So after all of this, after all these things that you've shared with us, what kind of challenge lights you up today, right? Because that's the other part, your motivation. What gets you up in the morning every day? Where do you want to put all of this that you have experienced to work?
Lizette, that's part of the important transition questions that we need to, to ask ourselves during and after the transitions. I think that I want to partner, and I've thought a lot about this. Many people have asked me, "What do you want to do?" I have been offered opportunities with other colleagues that are like, let's join forces to do this or that. And I said, I promised myself that I was going to give myself a few months to think a little bit about that. But what I really know that I want to do is I want to partner with talented people. I want to partner with people with a purpose. I want to partner with people who have my values, that are honest, that care, that are looking forward to achieve great business results. That I can put my curiosity, my creativity, my determination. There are very few things that I see as not doable. I think transformations, changes are amazing opportunities and things to be motivated toward and to achieve together with others. I always go back to moments where we had to do things that were difficult. We all went through a pandemic, and in Puerto Rico, in particularly, we went through very difficult times through hurricanes and earthquakes and things like that. And I will never forget how being creative, being determined, being focused, being humble, were the mix, the ingredients to make an amazing team get out of things that were very, very difficult and come back even stronger to make an organization as good as it could be in that moment. So that's where I want to modernize workforce. I want to share my knowledge with others, make people better, and go to a place where at the end, any organization where I go in, it's going to be even better or stronger because I was able to add something into it.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think that examples perfectly what we were talking about at the beginning of the conversation. How do we identify the strengths that are truly ours, and the strengths that are attached to the title? And I think what you just mentioned are, the things that we look forward to keeping to ourselves beyond the titles and beyond the organizations. And what will you tell, Mariemi, your younger self? How old were you when you started? Like, you were probably in your 20s, right?
It was 24.
When you started your career in banking, and after this long tenure, these big titles that you've held, this amazing career success. If you look back to that, do you remember your first day at work?
I remember like if it was today.
What will you tell her?
And I'll tell you why I remember it so well. I interviewed myself a week before getting married. And I got a call offering me the job the day before my wedding. I said, well, I'm getting married tomorrow. If you wait until I come back from my honeymoon, I certainly will accept the challenge. So I was married to the organization and to my husband at the same time. Wow. Well, I continue married to my husband. He actually he was concerned about my transition. Are you transitioning just your job? And I said, yeah, don't worry. But what I would tell that Mariemi that day, don't stop your interest to be challenged every day. Keep that fire in your tummy alive. Stay curious, stay humble, stay interest in contributing to something bigger, that you don't necessarily control, but that you're part of. And share everything that you can, because that only comes back to you in the best of ways. And I started my career and ended my career with some people by my side that were all through it. And I feel very honored, privileged to have had that opportunity and to work with so many talented people. And I'm looking forward to take all of that into these next steps. And I remember something that you put into your conclusion in your book on transitions, that transitions don't happen to you, they happen for you.
Yeah.
And that's something I took with me, and I know that I made this decision consciously of trying to do something different, ¿verdad? To experience other cultures, other people, other opportunities, and I am looking forward into figuring that out. And one thing that I will say to everybody, and I probably would have said that to the Mariemi at 25 or 24, is that you don't have to have all the answers.
Yeah.
You can figure it out.
Yeah.
And it is okay to not have every single dot on every single I. It's okay. You're experimenting for yourself, and you're investing in yourself. And that's what I'm trying to do in this transition.
Oh my gosh, that's such a gift, Mariemi. Thank you so much. And what I hear this last part, like we don't have to know everything. Actually, I think oftentimes we do things not knowing everything. Most of the times we don't have all the answers, and that's okay. That's okay. And also, and thank you for bringing the fact that transitions are happening for us, because that's a huge, especially because you did a very conscious transition. Sometimes transitions are unexpected and they're difficult to navigate. But when we remember this is going to happen for a reason, even if that moment is difficult, can completely change the perspective. So no, thank you, Mariemi, for this amazing conversation. To our audience, remember, you are always in command of your professional career. Stop every now and then and ask yourself the right questions. What am I going to? What are my strengths? Is my identity completely mine, or is it way too attached to the role? And it's okay if it's too attached to the role at some points. Just make sure you're asking the right questions. So, Mariemi Sierra, thank you so much. I look forward to staying in touch. Hopefully, we'll have you here again in another Cafecito in a few months. We'd love to hear how things are going for you. And it's been a great pleasure having this conversation with you today.
Thank you, Lizette. I truly appreciate the relationship, the partnership with you. I tell the audience, cherish the past, value what you have learned, and look into your future with determination, and valuing yourself and thinking about yourself. That will give you a very good outcome, I'm sure, at the end. So thank you for the opportunity again, and always here for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mariemi, and thank you to everyone out there. I hope you continue to have a beautiful Wednesday, a wonderful week, and I look forward to seeing you here next time. And thank you to United Latinas, of course, for having, this beautiful setup, these conversations that are so important, so candid for us to hear. So thank you, and see you next time.
Thank you, everybody.